everybody, I am Danny Otto. Welcome into another episode of That Recap Show. Now, before we get into the episode, just wanted to issue major spoiler alert. We are going to be going over everything that happened in episode 2 of the Moon Knight Disney Plus series. So if you haven't checked that episode out yet, you may want to pause this video, head over to Disney Plus, watch that, and then come back and enjoy the breakdown. Now, with that out of the way, let's start the show.
Poppin' Off presents That Recap Show.
Joining with me to break down everything that happened in episode 2 of the Moon Knight series, it's Johnny Rico.
Hey! What's going on?
Oh, man. Look, like I was telling you already, episode 1 was great. Episode 2 was just as good, if not better. I have loved every part of this series so far. And what's really crazy is you could kind of argue that we could almost wrap up the series if we wanted to by next episode because of how much are in each episode, but we get 6 episodes of this, so I can't wait to see like what they're actually going to put in this, because I've enjoyed everything that they've done in just these 2 episodes. What do you think?
Yeah, this episode was fantastic. I thought you could have really released these 2 episodes on the same day, because this kind of felt kind of like a little bit of a 2-parter in a sense. Like that first episode was really, hey, this is Steven. He's our little dumb idiot guy that we follow around for the first episode. But hey, we finally got to meet the real main character that is Moon Knight, and that is Mark Spector. And we actually got more information on him and stuff like that. But it had everything I kind of wanted from a Moon Knight type of episode, from the conversations with Mark and Steven and Khonshu and all that, and the action itself to some pretty cool little reveals at the end of the episode, I thought. But yeah, I thought this was a really great episode all in all.
And that leads perfectly into one thing I definitely wanted to say before we get into any big takeaways or anything like that about the episode is I'm really liking how we've kind of crossed this bridge. We were introduced to Steven and we thought he was just a character, and then he would, blank out and we wouldn't really see anything from Mark. Now we've progressed to this episode where they're interacting with each other. And I like that. I like seeing them, actually having conversations with each other and becoming more and more, aware of each other. And we kind of already know that, Mark was always aware of what was kind of going on. But now we, just like Steven, are kind of learning about this and seeing everything. And I really like this progression. It kind of goes with one of the rumors that was kind of around this series before it was coming out. There were rumors that we could potentially see Hawke making an appearance in this. And look, it's just a rumor. Nothing's ever been confirmed or anything like that. But I'm starting to think that it would make sense. Not that I think we're going to definitely for sure see him, but it would make sense because we had Bruce Banner kind of fighting his alter ego, Hawke, and them kind of always kind of not wanting to agree with the other one. And then we had, Smart Hulk in Endgame, to where they learned how to work together and to be one entity working together at putting the best of each person together, basically. So who better to kind of help, Steven and Mark and Mr. Knight and Moon Knight and everybody kind of learn how to work together by the end of the series, or beyond, having Moon Knight. I mean, obviously we're gonna have Moon Knight in other things, so I just think that would be a really cool cameo or little end credit scene, something like that, where he's talking to him and kind of saying this is how we kind of bridge together. I think that would be really cool. As always, because I'm me, I have to go with the reference that popped into my head while I was watching this. And it's very obvious. It's dealing with jackals.
A jackal! Jackal! It's a jackal! It looks like a jackal! 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 It's a jackal! Jackal!
Time!
It wasn't right the first time you said it. Why the hell would it be right the next 10 times?
But what's really cool about this, and the implication is that Steven and Mark are kind of the only ones who can see the jackal, or the jackals, I guess, at this point in those situations. So it's very interesting, like when we get the scenes where they're kind of fighting, because I mean, in the beginning of the episode, when we're looking at the footage from the museum, Steven is like, why is there no jackal on the screen, type of thing, and he ends up ultimately getting fired because there was no record of the jackal anywhere. But it's just very interesting, and we know, I mean, it's just that no one else can see them. It's not that they're like not destroying or interacting with things, because I mean, we see the cars getting dented. We see, obviously, like there's all that damage that was done to the bathroom in the museum and stuff like that. So they are interacting. They're just invisible to the average human, I guess. That was my one reference. The last thing I want to say before we get into any big takeaways is QR codes. I think they're going to be playing a really fun factor in this entire series. First episode, there was a chance, it was on the wall in the museum. There was a QR code that we could scan, and that brought up the Werewolf by Night number 32. That's first appearance of Moon Knight. And then there is one in this episode also. It's outside of Mark's storage unit, and we just scanned it, and we found out that it is number 33. So it's just a continuation, like you were saying, of the story where it's Moon Knight's first appearance with Werewolf by Night type of thing. And I just think that's like a really cool little Easter egg that now we can look at and look for in every episode. So I thought that was just like, it's just really cool. That, and like I said, I want to start reading these comics, and this is like the perfect way for me to, start reading them is, all right, well, here's a digital copy. Go read this. Like, I just think that's really cool of the creators of the show and stuff like that, to have that kind of Easter egg in there to be like, all right, are you interested in this character? Check out the comic. I just think that's cool.
Yeah.
But
for sure.
You want to get to some big takeaways?
Yeah, let's do it.
Awesome. All right, I will kick us off. We have it. Steven finally figures out, after getting fired and reaching into his pockets, he still has Mark's cell phone and the key. And he says, you know what? Maybe I can figure something out if I go and find this storage locker. And so we finally have Steven finding Mark's home, I guess. I mean, there's a cot there, but it's basically his safe house, his safe storage locker type of thing. And we get like more interaction between Mark and Steven, and I think it's perfect. And then, we get your favorite character that comes up after that, but I'll let you go on to your first big takeaway. But I just thought that was really cool that now we have Steven kind of, unraveling the story, because like I said, one of the biggest things that I liked about the first episode was that we were learning things just like the character that we were introduced to. And so like this series is different in the sense of like, this is like a mystery. This is like an adventure type of theme type of thing. Like we have a character that's discovering things and hunting for things and stuff like that. And I enjoy that. I like that. I think it makes it fresh. It makes it something different. And we still have Marvel elements, but I just like having that. So anyway, what's your first big takeaway?
Yeah, like before I kind of get into what I'm gonna get into with my takeaway, kind of talking what you were talking about, the whole like how they're bringing in more of like that whole Moon Knight lore into it with, Mark and Steven kind of actually getting more in touch with each other to have more conversations in this episode than of course they did in that last episode. But I kind of love that like Mark has like this little area that he keeps all of his like kind of like mercenary equipment away from Steven, so that Steven has no idea who the two personalities are. He has no idea that they're one person. But like Mark said, like he's been keeping that wall in between them because that's the deal that Khonshu made with Mark. Like, okay, we're going to do this, but we got to keep Steven out of this. So we get a lot more interaction in this episode between Steven and Arthur Harrow in this episode, which brought a lot of information to the table, especially for newer Moon Knight fans, but also like more context into what's going on into this series. We learned that Harrow himself has a history with Khonshu, and like every time we heard Khonshu talk to Steven, Harrow would be like, oh, he just said exactly what Khonshu had said. And he goes, oh, he just said that, huh? Okay, yeah. yeah, he's telling you this now, isn't he? And it's like, yeah, okay. Like, well, how does this guy know exactly?
Yeah, he goes,
Going
"Can
on?
you hear him?" Like,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah. You can actually hear what I hear. Like, what's going on? Like, he finally like, well, it's one of us. Uh, but yeah. So basically, like, we learned that Harrow was at one point the Fist of Vengeance himself, as Moon Knight is known as, but as he is finally referenced in the show. Um, but like, he kind of reached a point where like he was done with that, and I think he finally is now the avatar of Emmett, if I'm not mistaken. I think that's kind of what we're being led to believe.
he alludes to that because of his staff or
Yeah,
because of his cane. He says
I think
this
he's
is
yeah.
given to the avatar of Amit.
Yeah. Like the way I kind of looked at him at first was sort of like Caecilius in Doctor Strange, Mads Mikkelsen's character, how like he was a really powerful sorcerer himself, but he was clearly trying to serve Dormammu.
Right.
And I feel like that's exactly what Harrow is doing in with Amit here. And which leads me into kind of like my next point is like we learn why he wants the scarab to begin with. We were always wondering why the scarab was so important to these people. Like it's clearly the MacGuffin of the series. We see Steven kind of like accidentally activate it in the hideout, and it starts to like kind of point him. It's like sort of like a compass to where
Right.
Amit's tomb is apparently. So yeah, well, it looks like he's trying to find a way to bring back Emmett's body, I guess, because her tomb's there. He's gonna find a way to reanimate her in some form. Which I'm excited to get into that later on in my kind of like my predictions. Um, but yeah, I thought this was a really cool way to kind of get more depth to Ethan Hawke's character. Because he's never been that important of a comic character to begin with, but I think they've made him really interesting in this show. I love the way how he has this kind of like cult leader vibe. Of course, that's how he's inspired by like actual cult leaders in real life. But yeah, I think it's really cool how like again, like I think the best villains are always like the antithesis of the actual hero. So of course, like Steven slash Mark has someone who doesn't have his shit together in his head. So he's just constantly, the chaos is inside of him. Like to say, his scales aren't balanced.
Yeah.
So of course, but Ethan Hawke is a guy who has served Khonshu, but his scales are balanced now. So it's kind of like it's someone who believes in what he's doing, but it's obviously not, very good stuff. Like Steven says, like I'm not down with the whole like
Yeah.
child stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. That's it.
Yeah.
You guys don't draw the line there. That's where I draw the
Yeah, I
line.
kind of draw a line at that stuff. Yeah. But yeah, that's kind of my first takeaway on this episode. Danny, what do you got for your second one?
Very cool. Yeah. So for my second takeaway, I'll let you give us the final takeaway, but just one really quick. Like I was kind of already saying in the kind of the intro, I really like that we're kind of getting different themes and different elements in this series, and just like I was kind of saying, where we were kind of getting an adventure vibe. We
Mhm.
also had elements of horror in this, like
Oh, yeah.
when Khonshu is trying to stop Steven in the storage locker hallway. Like
Mhm.
that was creepy. Like
Yeah.
that was creepy. And it even has like that very like guys screaming and it freeze frame and then fades back to a different scene type of thing. Like
Mhm.
it had elements like of horror and stuff like that. And I really enjoy it because we are seeing something fresh and we are seeing something, new. And I think it's working. I mean, especially for this series in general, but I just think it's really cool. And so I wanted to make sure that I pointed out that I'm really digging like the themes and the elements that they're kind of playing with so far in the series. And I think it's really cool. And yeah, I'm excited to see more of it. And even if we dip a little bit more into horror, I'm ready. But anyway, so
Sure.
what do you have for our final takeaway?
Um, yeah, like you said, I'm ready for more horror elements to be brought into MCU as well, and I think we're about to get some with Doctor Strange here in a little bit too. So I
Oh, we're ready.
can't wait for that. Yeah, but man, for me, this was right here the boom, the big reveal of the episode for me. We got to see Mr. Knight right away. I didn't think we were gonna see him in the second episode right away, but the way I think he was brought in was actually hilarious, but also pretty fantastic. Like we kind of learned that when he gets put into that either the Moon Knight or Mr. Knight, that he's amplified a little bit in like his durability, his ability to take punishment, his strength, and all that. But man, when he does the superhero landing.
You gotta do a superhero landing. Wait for it. Woo! Superhero landing. Yeah, that's really hard on your knees.
Hard on the knees, but he does it. And he gets up and he sees himself in the reflection. I love the light in the eyes, by the way. Like the white in the eyes is probably one of the coolest things you can do in probably any superhero. Like if you can pull it off right, and if they I think it's probably the first time they pull it off like perfectly. So he gets up like, oh, I look pretty spiffy or whatever, and then Mark looks at him and he says like, what he calls like a chaotic Colonel Sanders or a crazy Colonel Sanders.
Yeah,
like that was a great line. But yeah, and then of course it leads that it's such like a Moon Knight thing where it's badass but also part hilarious because you're watching him fight a jackal, but you're seeing it from the perspective of people who don't have dissociative identity disorder or moon powers, but they're just seeing a dude get thrown around by nothing, and they're like,
right.
is he drunk? Is he okay? Like, what's going on with this guy?
Right.
So then at the end, all that after he like just brutalizes the jackal as the Moon Knight, which I thought that whole sequence of him like turning around and the robes going around him with his eyes all white, with that was awesome. Cool chase scene. Then he just kind of does like this whoosh right there on the like the top of the building, just impales them on like the church or whatever. Great imagery. I thought like more of that like horror imagery that you were talking about, but like just very indicative of those Werewolf by Midnight comics. But then we finally get to see Mark get like actual control of the body. Like I feel like we're getting more of a focus on him now, of course, which is going to be good. And then we're seeing, of course, Steven has to go live in the reflections now, which of course is like it sucks for him, but I think that's what we as a viewer should be following Mark at this point. Like he's our guy. Steven is not the main player. He was just our introductory point, and now we should be following Mark. And of course, they did that cool little time lapse thing where we just see him laying on the bed and drinking in Egypt, and then we just look out and see the pyramids, and then boom. I was like, okay, we're already here. Here we go. Like we're just moving right along, aren't we? But yeah, man, this show is just, I think it's just hitting on all cylinders for me, and I can't wait for next week already. Like we only watched it this morning, and I gotta wait 7 days now. So it's like, oh man,
I know. I feel the exact same way. I mean, I'm not coming from a comic background of this, and like I've already said, I'm very excited. I am going to start reading into Moon Knight comics, post show. Like that's what I kind of wanted to do. I wanted to take this fresh, and then if I became interested, which I am, then I want to move back into the comics and stuff like that. That's what I've done kind of in the past with some of the Marvel comics that I ended up enjoying and liking and starting to read more now. But I do really like how we are getting all of our, like now we have all of our players kind of on the field. So now we've been introduced to Steven, we've been introduced to Mark, we've been introduced to Moon Knight, and we've been introduced to Mr. Knight. And I'm just very like, I like all of them, and I can't wait to see more of all of them type of thing. Like I like how we've been introduced to all of them already. And I really do. There's something I like out of all of them. Just like you were saying, I think it was the perfect way to introduce Mr. Knight, just having him pop up. But I also love, and I know this isn't like part of a comic part, but I like how he is basically essentially Steven's alter ego type of thing, because they kept saying make the suit happen, make the suit come out type of thing, and he had no context for what the Moon Knight suit is.
I got a suit, here we go.
Yeah, so he just thought of a suit, and because he's still technically the Avatar, like Mark told him, was he's Khonshu's avatar, so technically Steven is too. He still had the power to summon something. And so what he summoned was what he essentially thought
was his own suit.
Yeah. So
Mark has his suit, and now Steven has his own suit.
Right. So I'm excited to see how like maybe they do start to work together, and maybe they need Mr. Knight for certain things and they need, Moon Knight for other things type of thing. And I'm just really like, I just like having all the players on the field, but I like something about every single one of them. It's not like, oh yeah, that was really cool, but I don't really care if I see that person again.
Mhm.
I like seeing all of them. But yeah, that was really cool. You want to get to some predictions?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So kind of on the theme, I just have to say this one time more. We've basically turned into something like Indiana Jones crossed with The Mummy Returns. Because now we are kind of racing against the other side, the bad team, to stop the resurrection of Amit at this point.
Right.
Like that's kind of what we're doing, and that's pretty much the plot to the Mummy Returns, maybe even the Mummy to a certain extent. But that was the first thing I wanted to say. I don't really have a prediction about what the next episode is. Obviously, I mean, they're already in Egypt, so that's it. It's kind of a race against the clock to see who can find Amit's tomb first, basically, or stop them from finding Amit's tomb first. But what I wanted to do was I wanted to just launch a couple of far out ideas that I had for the end of the season, not for the next episode, but just really quick end of the season. Just ones I had in my head that I wanted to see if anything stuck. My first one was the Hulk one. I do really think if we were going to get a cameo from another Avenger, I think it would make sense. Now, totally would not be upset if we don't get the Hulk in here. Not at all. But I just think it would be, it would be the fitting Avenger cameo that I could see to get everybody working together and stuff like that. But another far out thing is I just had this thought. What if at the very end we get Layla somehow being turned into Amit's avatar, like against her will type of thing? And that is our series ender type of thing leading into a second season. And so, Steven and Mark can't hurt her because they don't want to hurt her. And so they're in this, like, how do we stop her without killing Layla type of thing? I could just see like a cliffhanger like that, like something crazy like that happening. That would be a major cliffhanger for a season 2. And it would be like a really big, like, what are we going to do? And we have to work together moving forward type of thing. I could see that being like, okay, we're pulling all of us together to work together to figure this out. So my last one, and I know it's out there, but I just, with everything really strange coming up, what if we are, essentially kind of integrating the gods into the MCU? And what if just as an end credit scene, we have some of the gods talking and we get an off-screen introduction that Gore has eliminated a fellow god type of thing, kind of leading into an introduction of Gore, maybe not seeing him on screen, but just an off-screen, like talking about him leading into Thor Love and Thunder. And maybe that's a reason why we haven't got a trailer for Thor Love and Thunder, is because, the end of the Moon Knight series has something that leads into it. And so they don't want to spoil something. They don't want to say something until it pops up. And then as soon as Moon Knight concludes, we'll get our trailer for Thor Love and Thunder. That's all I thought. Anyway, Rico, what's your predictions?
So I think what we're building up to is Harrow is, I think, going to be able to reanimate Emmett in some form. I feel like she's going to be the end boss of the season, sort of. I'm kind of speaking like in video game terms, the end boss, but yeah, like I think by the end of the season, I think that we'll be done with Emmett. If I'm not mistaken, I don't even think she's one of the Ennead, like one of the main 9 gods. I think she's just like a kind of like a soul sucking kind of like demon sort of a thing. Like she feeds off of that kind of a thing. If I'm not mistaken, I gotta look that up. But I kind of want to talk about how gods might play like a larger role in the overall MCU going forward. It feels like post Thanos, post Endgame stuff, we've gotten a few relics that have kind of like hinted at kind of kind of like a world between world kind of a thing. We got the 10 rings, which were directed to Talo, which is like another dimension, sort of, but it's also like kind of like a part of Earth in its own way. I feel like maybe that's where like the scarab can come into play when it comes to Amit and maybe like the Egyptian gods. Maybe they have like their own section as well that they live in. Um, Same for, the panther gods of Wakanda. How, there's that whole spiritual realm. They're like, I think there's all these things. We were introduced with the ebony blade and Eternals with Black Knight. We still have yet to see like how much further that can go down. But I feel like we're being introduced to these kind of like earth gods in a sense, the Egyptian gods. We've already had like the Norse gods through Asgard, but they're kind of like established as like their own people out in the galaxy that are worshipped as gods. So like I don't know if they're the same. I would say the celestials are like the space gods essentially. So maybe now that will pave the way for more of like, Christianity and stuff like that, where you kind of get into more like that more spiritual realm, like, the devil, which could be our way to Mephisto, which could also bring in like Ghost Rider and stuff like that. So I feel like you're just opening up that more like paranormal slash like spiritual realm of the Marvel universe that will, could be ushered in by characters like Doctor Strange, Blade, Black Knight, all these guys who have a little bit more of an interdimensional tie to things as opposed to like, space or science and stuff like that. So we're really just diving into another avenue of Marvel that the films have yet to touch, and it's really exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the sky's the limit, but I mean, you just basically listed off the entire group of the Midnight Suns, which is something else that has been rumored that we could be leading towards, and I would be all for that.
Yeah,
Because
I think we're getting there.
that would be awesome. But anyway, the sky is the limit. I cannot wait until episode 3. That's what we think. Let us know in the comments below. What did you think of episode 2? What are you hoping to see moving forward in this series? We still have 4 episodes left. And like I said, we could technically have wrapped it up in the next episode. So I can't wait. I mean, I have full faith that all of these episodes are going to be just as good as the first 2. Now I'm expecting it. But let us know in the comments. What do you like? What are you hoping to see? And as always, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications to hear about all of our latest video releases. Bye, everybody!